never forgotten in history books, novels, and movies. Elisabeth Eidenbenz, together with the members of the Association to Aid Children in War, knew very well the horror and suffering that were unleashed during the 3 long years of the Spanish Civil War. She watched as many Republicans fled the Republic, which crumbled by the day. As she saw the suffering of mothers and children in the refugee camps, she decided to take action. Her travels throughout the beaches of southern France showed her the fear and desperation of women who did not even have drinking water to offer their babies. She saw mothers covering their infants in sand to keep them warm and attempting to give them seawater for their thirst. And so she opened the Elm Maternity Hospital to offer respite and care for pregnant mothers and their babies. Some 597 children graced the halls of the maternity hospital, and their lives were preserved. With the Nazi occupation of France and the arrival of Jewish refugees, the maternity hospital became a hub of shelter and assistance. I visited the Elm Maternity Hospital in the spring of 2011. It was at the end of a trip that had taken me across half of France and became the seedbed for my book, Children of the Stars. On one of the last days, I went with a group of journalists, writers, professors, and Protestant pastors to the maternity hospital. It is now a museum. Our hearts broke as we toured the various rooms and saw the videos and images of our compatriots stranded in a strange and hostile land. When our group met back up in the yard, we were all red-eyed and speechless. The story had been a punch to the gut. In the summer of 2018, I returned to the area with my family. We visited the Argelès Camp Memorial, and I was once again bowed over with grief and sadness. My maternal grandfather may have been among those desperate souls escaping certain death. After the war, he was declared missing. The Swiss nurse is the story of the Elm Maternity Hospital and some of the women who found in that peaceful haven enough hope and strength to keep going. I hope this book offers a glimpse of what is freest and most authentic about humanity, both in our tremendous humanity and in our destructive inhumanity. This is the story of one dark moment and the bright light that certain people give off in defiance of the darkness of a fanaticized world. Madrid, September 1st, 2021. Prologue. Cleveland, Ohio, United States, December 24th, 1995. I had always been aware of the fleeting nature of life. This anxious sensation drove me to rush each minute as if any second could be my last. When we would visit my grandmother Isabel at her house outside of town and by the sea, she would always say that as time marched inexorably on, all the people we had ever loved went slowly and quietly by the wayside. Our parents, friends, and teachers disappeared from our lives and never returned. Her words made an impression on me, though I was too young to understand the void of forgetfulness. But I liked listening to her talk. She had a strange accent, and I would listen while staring at the crackling fire in the hearth. That is when I felt safest in life. I have been chasing that sensation ever since. My parents divorced, and then my grandfather died, and it felt like the ground was splitting open beneath my feet as I navigated dorm life at college. The only thing that made me feel calm and steady was visiting my grandmother. She'd been in a retirement home for several years by then, biding her time before going to her eternal resting place. Some Sunday afternoons, as we lazily watched the facility's garden, she would talk about the past, yet she never went anywhere near anything that had to do with the war she had lived through in Spain. Perhaps it had been so painful that silence was the only weapon strong enough to face it. On one long, chilly winter afternoon, my grandmother closed her eyes briefly and smiled, as if her soul had caught a glimpse of something sweet. I turned toward her and witnessed her last breath, exhaled with deep peace. I squeezed her wrinkled hand, it was still warm, and rested my head on her shoulder. There went my home forever. The next day, barely a dozen of us gathered for a simple burial. Almost all of my grandparents' friends and acquaintances had died long ago. My mom placed a red carnation on the casket before the frozen clods of dirt started to cover it. My parents left, each going their separate way, but I went back to my grandmother's room to pack up her few remaining personal items. Along with her condolences, the aide gave me an empty box to take to the room. My chest